Okay, so again, your first step for these problems is to find p over q, or all the possible roots. Again, possible roots just means these are possible x-intercepts, or they're possible zeros for this equation, but they might not necessarily be. So they're just possible, but they are not the real roots. Again, the real roots we show by using synthetic or quadratic, and then also by the calculator. That's okay. So the very first thing we would do is we would do p divided by q, which is we're going to divide the constant, or all the factors of the constant, by all of the factors of our largest polynomial. So as an example, here would be plus or minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12, because those are all the factors of 12. So again, when I put the plus and minus in the very front, again, I'm referring to plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, plus or minus 3, plus or minus 4, plus or minus 6, plus or minus 12. And then we have plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2. And I'm just going to write it like this. Plus or minus 5, and plus or minus 10. Okay. So again, where I got these numbers from is that these are all factors for the coefficient of the largest polynomial. So 1, 2, 5, and 10 all divide into 10. They're all factors of 10. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12 are all factors of my constant, or they're all factors of 12. So the very first thing that I would do is I would divide all of these top numbers, or all of these factors, by my first number, which is 1. I'm going to get the same answer, so it's just going to be plus or minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12, plus or minus of each of these. The next thing I would do is I would divide each of these by 2, and then if I have any recurring factors, I don't need to rewrite it, because we already know that it's recurring. So as an example, I'm going to do 1 divided by 2, which is plus or minus 1/2. And then I have plus or minus 2 divided by 2, which is 1. 1's already here, so I don't need to rewrite it. I'm going to do 3 divided by 2, that I do not have, so plus or minus 3/2. 4 divided by 2, which is 2. I already have that, so I don't need to write it. 6 divided by 2 is 3. I already have that. 12 divided by 2 is 6. I already have that. The next thing I do is divide everything by 5. So 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, 6/5, and 12/5. So plus or minus 1/5, plus or minus 3/5, plus or minus 4/5, plus or minus 6/5, and plus or minus 12/5. And again, these would all be plus or minus, and I'm just trying to show you guys what it would be. And then I would divide everything by 10, so all the top factors by 10, so I would have plus or minus 1/10, and then plus or minus 2 divided by 10 is the same as 1/5, so I don't need to write it again. 3/10 I do not have, so plus or minus 3/10. 4 divided by 10 is equal to 2/5, which I do not have, so plus or minus 4/10. And then 6 divided by 10 is 3/5. 12 divided by 10 is 6/5. So those are all my possible roots. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about what I just did? Okay. So again, all I did is I just divided all of my factors of my constant, which is 12. And I divided all of them by all of my factors of my largest polynomial's coefficient. Okay. Okay, so that is part A, so I'm done. Again, all you really need to answer is what are all the possible roots. The second thing you would do is you would use, or you would test each one of these, which seems like a lot, and it is a lot, because it really relies on chance. So to help mitigate that, the amount of tries that we have, we're going to use our calculator, we're going to use our polyroot finder, and then we're going to go ahead and type it in. So we have 10, negative 11, negative 42, 7, and 12. You can see here that we have two real roots. The other ones we don't know. So for the two real ones, we're going to go ahead and use them. One of them is 6/10 and the other is negative 1/2. And they look kind of intimidating, but again, I want you to bear with me. If they are roots here, then the numbers will most likely come out a little better. So we're going to use the two real roots. Does anyone still need this top half? Down. So you would set up your synthetic division like this. Okay, so go ahead and try to solve it on your own. See if you can come up with the right answer. And again, you shouldn't have any fractions here, so it should be a little easier. Okay, let's see here. So you can see here we would first bring down the 10. Then we would multiply 10 by negative 1/2, which is negative 5. We would get negative 16. Then we would multiply negative 16 by negative 1/2, which is 8. We would get negative 34. We would multiply negative 34 by by negative 1/2, which equals plus 17, which equals positive 24 when we add them together. Multiply 24 by negative 1/2, which is negative 12, which is 0. So you can see here that we didn't even deal with any fractions really. We were just dividing the number by 2. And then now it looks also very intimidating, but okay, bear with me too. So 10, we're going to go ahead and bring it down. 6 divided by 10 times 10, that just equals 6. So this would equal negative 10. Negative 10 divided by 10 is just negative 1 times 6, which is negative 6. We get negative 40. Negative 40 divided by 10 is just negative 4. You just remove the 0, and then this equals negative 24, 0, and we get our answer. Okay, so at this point, you could either make it a little easier by simplifying this. So this would be 10x squared minus 10x minus 40. So this is part B. I don't think this is easily factorable, so I'm going to go ahead and use quadratic formula. Something to note for this one is that you can actually reduce this. So if you can take out a number for all of them, you could reduce all of them by 10. But if that seems too complicated, you don't have to. So next we would set up our quadratic formula. A equals 10, B equals -10, and C equals -40. And again, if you had divided all of these by 10, you would have a lot smaller numbers to deal with. Okay, does anyone still need the synthetic division? So what you should do next is you would do quadratic formula. Hopefully you can do that. So then we would get x equals -b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And you want to go ahead and plug it in. So we get x equals -10 plus or minus the square root -10 squared minus 4 times 10 over -40 all over 2 times 10. So this would be 10 plus or minus the square root of 100 plus 16 with 2 zeros all over 220. This equals 10 plus or minus the square root of 1700 divided by 20. Okay, that looks like a really crazy number to factor out, but it's very easy to factor out. If there are 2 zeros here, we know it'd be 17 times 10 times 10 divided by 20. Since there are 2 10s under the square root, again, they would just come out right before the square root. So this would be 10 plus or minus 10 divided by 17, 20. You can divide each of these things by 10. So since there's a 10 on the outside, there's a 10 on the outside, and there's a 20 right here, what we could do is we could divide each of these things by 10. So that would equal 1 plus or minus 1 square root of 17 divided by 20. Or sorry, divided by 2. And that is your answer. Okay. So x would equal -1/2, 6/10, and 1 plus or minus the square root of 17 divided by 2. You don't need the 1 in the outside. It's pretty much the same thing. If you include the 1, then it's fine. You won't get marked off. It would be the same thing. Okay. If we were to sketch this graph, it would look like a W. So I'm just going to draw a tiny sketch over here. So the last thing it always tells us to do is to sketch it. I will show the sketch in a bit. So it's just going to look like the graph we drew over there, but if I were just to sketch it, it would look like this. Okay? That would be what it would look like.